Well, hello, my inky friends. It's Cindy Lynn with my Inky Fingers. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I want to show you some very simple techniques for stamping and designing the insides of your cards. I also have some fun techniques using some markers on stamps, so there's a little bit of something for everybody. But I'm going to make a few examples and then I'll show you a few at the end. Now, this is an A2 size card, so the inside of the card is 5.5 by 4.25. I like to cut all of my mats for the outside of the card and the insert of the card to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I'll put up all these measurements on my blog along with a link to all the cards and all the supplies that I use, because there are videos for mostly I think all of the cards that you're going to see today. So I want to pull out my Pattern Party decorative mask stencils, and these are Stampin' Up, and I used those to create the front of the card. So I just kind of want to carry that theme and design onto the inside of the card. So I'm going to pull out my foam dauber. And for this one, I used Calypso Coral, and I'm really fortunate I have a supply sheet for every single card I make, so it was easy for me to go back, but I'm sure you'll be able to match your colors. Now, I'm going to use So Sentimental, and the stamp I wanted is gone. Has that ever happened to you? I couldn't find the stamp. I literally had to go through, I don't know how many stamp sets to find where I put this stamp because I didn't put it back in the right container. Anyhow, what I want to do is I want to carry on with that Calypso Coral and the Old Olive, and I want to use that with my sentiment. And this is a perfect sentiment to use your markers on and just color the different words. So I've got a two-tone sentiment. Once I'm done coloring with my marker and I've got good coverage, I'm going to huff on it, and I'm going to huff pretty good just to get that heat from my breath reactivating that ink. So I really like the way that that turned out. Now, I don't normally do the insides of my cards because I like to personalize them. I'm only kind of doing these just for this tutorial and example. I don't really have anybody in mind. So if you save the insides for later, then you can go back and personalize them, right? So I've cut this mat again to fit the inside of this card. And now I want to use a nice big sentiment because the front of the card has a rainbow theme going on. So I decided that I wanted to create a rainbow on my stamp. Now, just a tip, when you're using markers on stamps, it's better to use the cling, the red rubber. I find it doesn't really work very well on acrylic and photopolymer clear stamps. So what I want to do here is I'm going to use my brush end of my marker on an angle, and I'm going to use a really light touch, and I'm just going to kind of do the colors of the rainbow on an angle. And I'm not too worried about the colors going into one another. If you do get some cross contamination, just rub it off on a scratch piece of paper. Now I'm going to go back to the red because that was my first color, and I just want to make sure it didn't dry too much. I'm going to huff on that, and then I'm going to stamp it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. You can click my face at the end of the video or that little subscribe button, the little square thing in the right-hand corner there. So I'm just going to put some glue on there. Now, if you notice, I always put a little dab of glue in the corners because I don't want my stuff dog-earing, right? So anyhow, now, I feel like I have this rainbow theme going on today. I don't know why I pulled out, the cards I pulled out just happened to be rainbowy. So those were the ones that were still in my bin that I hadn't categorized yet and stored and put all away. So here I wanted to show you, sometimes you can put two stamps together on the block and stamp them. And I did this just to see, and then I was like, I didn't really like the placement of that. I thought they were too far away. So I'm going to stamp these separately. Thought I could save some time, but I didn't like the placement. If the placement's fine for you with whatever stamps you're using, then you can kind of save a little time and put both your stamps together on the same block. Now, I counted out the word happy, or the letters in the word happy, and I want to do a color for each of the letters. I thought this would be fun, and I wanted the inside to be simple because this card is very simple, so I didn't want to go too crazy on the inside. So I've got most of the colors of the rainbow except the purple. So what I'm going to do is do birthday just in purple. And again, all the stamps and supplies that I use, I am going to list down below in the YouTube description and on my blog. So I'll put that happy there, and I just really like the way that that turned out. Now, the thing about inserts, I want to let you guys know, this isn't a Hallmark card. This is a homemade card. So the statement is in your artwork and it's in your creation. So I find you don't have to go crazy with these big, huge, long, meaningful sentiments inside. You can write what you want in there, but I just go really simple, and then my message is usually whatever I just write inside. Now this card I really, really liked. And again, the front is the statement. I didn't want to go too crazy on the inside. So I'm just going to stamp the sentiment in the same color as I did with the card, which I believe was Bermuda Bay. And now I want to use some butterflies, but you see how these are attached? So I'm going to perform some stamp surgery, and I'm going to cut this little butterfly off, and I'm going to show you after how this goes back together when you want to stamp again without an issue. So I'm looking at the colors on my card, and I decided I wanted to pull out the purple and the green. So I'm going to use the Highland Heather and the Pear Pizzazz, I believe it was. And I'm going to stamp that butterfly 2 times, just so the butterflies are kind of, floating on that little sentiment. And I thought that was just darling, because butterflies go with flowers every day of the week. So now you see here how I'm just piecing these 2 back. They just fit like a puzzle. And now when I want to stamp that together, because I have the coordinating punch, I can just put the 2 pieces together, and it was like they were never ever cut apart. So again, I'm just going to use my liquid glue, and the reason I use liquid glue is because it's got that wiggle room, right? So I have OCD, and that's that insert's got to be straight, so I can kind of wiggle it around. Now here's some cards I already made. And I did stamp the insides of these in the videos. So again, all the videos will be linked on my blog. Some of them you saw pop up as we were going along, but I can only put so many cards up top, right? So this one here, I loved this card. That was an alcohol ink technique. And I blended the stamp inside. So if you watch my channel, you know that very rarely do you see me stamp a stamp without blending on it. So that one was a blended. And this card I made at my my Uplines card class one night. If you guys want to see how to do this card, it's super, super fun. But you can see where you can write the sentiment there up at the top, and no one will see it. So there you go. Hopefully you got some cool tips and tricks today for your insides and stamping on or coloring on your stamps. And until I see you again, take care and happy stamping.